Hollywood's golden age promised immortality, faces the world would never forget, voices that thundered from colossal screens, and heroes larger than myth itself. The cameras made saints of men, sculpting them into warriors, lovers, prophets, and kings. Yet behind the glow of projection reels, another story unfolded, a story of whispers, fear, and carefully hidden sins. For every standing ovation, there was a muffled cry. For every golden statuette, there was a victim told to remain silent. The studios played God, constructing illusions that millions believed in, while behind the velvet curtains, the truth was too dark to sell. Hollywood was not only the land of dreams, but also of carefully choreographed lies. And into this darkness stepped a figure once worshipped like a prophet carved from stone, Charlton Heston. To audiences, he was Moses parting the Red Sea, Judah Ben-Hur thundering across the circus arena, the last man alive battling a fallen world. But what lay beyond the screen? What shadows clung to the man celebrated as a moral compass of American cinema? The answers would come from those who dared to speak, the journalists, the forgotten colleagues, the victims who refused silence. Their testimonies tore apart the myths, showing us a truth stranger than fiction. These were no longer roles from a script, but crimes that Hollywood had concealed for decades. And in the list, Charlton Heston revealed the final name is sure to send a chill down your spine. Charlton Heston was the very image of nobility. When he strode onto the screen in The Ten Commandments, 1956, draped in robes and firelit eyes, audiences swore they were staring at Moses himself. His Ben-Hur, 1959, became the definition of cinematic grandeur, earning 11 Academy Awards and cementing him as the face of righteous heroism. The press adored him. Headlines declared him Hollywood's moral compass, and magazines gushed over his towering sense of justice. To post-war America, he was not merely an actor, he was the embodiment of order, faith, and masculine virtue. But myths rarely survive when the curtain falls. Away from the cameras, Heston's temper was volcanic. Colleagues recalled that his booming baritone, so stirring in biblical monologues, could turn vicious behind closed doors. He didn't argue, one assistant confessed years later, he roared until you shrank. Production staff whispered of sudden outbursts, of props hurled across rehearsal rooms, of extras reduced to tears for the smallest mistakes. These weren't stories the studios wanted circulating, so they paid, silenced, and spun the narrative back to heroism. More troubling truth emerged from his personal life. Biographers have noted the contradictions between Heston's public image as the defender of virtue and his private reputation for manipulation. Former co-stars described him as a man who carried righteousness like a weapon. Actress Elena Parker, who worked alongside him in The Naked Jungle, 1954, once hinted in an interview that Charlton's intensity did not stop when the cameras stopped rolling. It could become frightening. The remark was swiftly buried, overshadowed by glowing profiles in industry magazines. The press, of course, played accomplice. America's Last Lion, one headline called him in 1960 after his Oscar triumph. Yet behind those words, publicists worked overtime, scrubbing reports of his tyrannical behavior from trade papers. "You don't question Moses," one studio executive remarked decades later, admitting how fear of tarnishing their box office profit kept the truth hidden. What made it more chilling was the duality. On screen, Moses, the liberator; off-screen, a man accused of silencing those who defied him. Hero in technicolor, bully in shadow, idol, tyrant. For fans who grew up worshipping his image, the revelations struck like betrayal. The man who stood against Pharaoh was, in the words of one betrayed colleague, our Pharaoh in real life. And if thousands of moviegoers believed in the savior projected on screen, how many knew the fear that followed once the lights dimmed? That was only the surface. The real secret came later. The contradiction was impossible to ignore. On one hand, Charlton Heston embodied the very ideals America wanted to believe in during the mid-20th century. His shoulders carried the weight of civilizations, Judah Ben-Hur defying Rome, Moses defying tyranny, George Taylor defying the future in Planet of the Apes, 1968. He was everyman's savior, standing tall while history trembled beneath him. The screen adored him, and so did the public. He led the NRA with fiery speeches about freedom, marched with Martin Luther King Jr. in Washington, and posed as the eternal defender of principle. To millions, he was incorruptible. But shadows lengthened in the spaces between roles. Testimonies revealed that Heston wore his roles like armor, protecting a core riddled with contradictions. Former assistants recalled his ironclad need for control, a domineering presence that suffocated collaborators. One stage manager claimed, "He demanded loyalty like an emperor. If you disagreed, you were erased." Colleagues spoke of icy silences that lasted weeks, of sudden tirades when schedules slipped, of a man who believed himself above the fragile rules binding others. The duality was chilling. In public, he marched with King. In private, years later, he railed against affirmative action, his words echoing with bitterness that undercut his former stance. Newspapers politely called it a shift. Insiders whispered another word: betrayal. Heston's family life reflected the same paradox. His marriage to Lydia Clark was often held up as proof of his stability, a union that lasted more than 60 years. Yet those close to the couple spoke of long, icy estrangements, of Clark's quiet suffering behind a carefully painted smile. A former neighbor described raised voices that carried through the walls and evenings where Heston stormed from the house like a general leaving a battlefield. The facade of marital bliss was guarded with the same rigor as his public image, protected by silence, secured by reputation. The media machine enabled it all. Studio heads, desperate to preserve their golden idol, crushed whispers before they grew into storms. When rumors surfaced about his temper on the set of The Agony and the Ecstasy, 1965, the narrative was twisted into praise. "Heston's intensity fuels Michelangelo's genius," read one glowing review. Anger was reframed as artistry, cruelty as dedication. The spotlight turned its face away, hiding the truth. For those who worked beneath him, the scars lasted. An anonymous crew member from LCI'd, 1961, confessed decades later, "We were terrified. He could charm the press with that booming laugh, then cut you down so coldly you wished you never met him. It was like living with two men, one for the cameras, one for the shadows." The betrayal deepened because fans adored the myth. Children dressed as Ben-Hur for Halloween, churches screened the Ten Commandments every Easter, families gathered to watch their supposed moral champion lead them across deserts of faith. And yet, behind closed doors, those closest to him spoke of fear. Hero on screen, tyrant off it, idol monster. And if the world cheered the first, how many were willing to face the second? Fans still whisper about that night, and if you've heard it, you know why. Charlton Heston's contradictions could have been exposed years earlier. The outbursts on set, the manipulation, the cruelty, these were not isolated incidents whispered in corners. They were patterns, but Hollywood in its golden age was less a dream factory than a fortress, built to protect its idols no matter the cost. And the fortress closed ranks around Heston. Studios had too much invested. Ben-Hur alone grossed over $74 million in 1959, an astronomical figure for its time, and turned MGM from near bankruptcy into profit. Who would dare challenge the man who saved the studio? Executives knew of his volcanic temper, his demands, his private cruelties, but they labeled it genius. "You don't tarnish the brand," one retired executive admitted decades later. "If he was Moses, we played the role of disciples." Publicists worked tirelessly to keep the image intact. Negative press was buried, reporters threatened with loss of access, and victims silenced with settlements that disappeared under non-disclosure agreements. An early draft of a Los Angeles Times article in 1962 described Heston as tyrannical behind the curtain, but the piece never ran. Instead, readers found a glossy profile titled "The Lion Who Leads Us." The press was not simply complicit, they were collaborators. Magazines praised his moral authority, even as whispers swirled that crew members suffered breakdowns from his intimidation. Photographers staged idyllic family portraits in which Lydia Clark smiled faintly, concealing years of private grief. Headlines after The Omega Man, 1971, celebrated Heston as the last man we can trust. The irony burned, but it was intentional. Trust was the product they were selling. Silence became the true co-star of Hollywood. Victims who tried to speak were branded disgruntled employees or failed actresses. Their pain was dismissed as bitterness, their truth drowned out by the roar of Heston's reputation. "We all knew," one screenwriter recalled bitterly, "but you didn't survive in this town by telling the truth. You survived by shutting up." The complicity reached higher still. Political figures leaned on Heston's reputation to bolster their causes, ignoring the hypocrisy. Presidents invited him to the White House. Governors praised his leadership. His image as a principled warrior served not only Hollywood, but Washington. Power needed its icons, and Heston played the role perfectly. For decades, the machinery of silence protected him, and the cost.